Hello, Trae.
How are you?
I'm so happy to be here in the building.
Let me just tell you this. Like, so many folks in community are like, oh my gosh, I've not even been to Seattle Opera, but I'm going because Janae is coming home. Janae is making her debut at Seattle Opera. This is so exciting. I want to start at the beginning because, interviewing opera singers, everybody has a unique way that they got into it. And you clearly knew you had a voice, but just tell us a bit about that journey for you musically from the beginning.
Sure. So I'm from Lakewood, Washington, Lakewood representing. And I started singing in the church choir about age 5 or something like that. So voice has always been in my world. My father is actually in the male choir, the Sons of Thunder at Allen AME Church. And so I grew up in the church singing in the choir. And I also grew up playing the piano from about age 3. So music has always been in my life, but I didn't actually grow up listening to opera. It's not often that you find a Black household that does. Not that there aren't any, but we just didn't in mine. And so um, fast forward, I studied piano. I sang in the middle school choir. I joined the choir in high school. And then my teacher said, "You have a natural gift. Maybe you want to start studying privately." And so I said, "Well, I'm super busy, but okay." So I added that to my, extracurricular activities, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love, and quickly, I'll just say that I played basketball too. So I had a conflict where my basketball coach said, "You can play the game, you can be on the team and do the choir thing as long as you make all of your practices." So I said, "Okay." So there was one very traumatic and dramatic moment where I had a basketball game and a choir rehearsal at the same day. So my coach said, "Fine, as long as you get here in time to warm up." So I finished the rehearsal. My mom drove me up about 2 hours north for the game. It was a very important game. I got there and he sat me on the bench. And I said, "Excuse me, I need to warm up. What's going on?" And the game started. 1 quarter went by, 2 quarters went by. And he refused to play me because he called himself teaching me a lesson in that I wasn't there for my team. And so that was actually the last day of my competitive sports career. And then I just completely shifted all of my focus and I really concentrated on singing. And I auditioned for conservatories all across the country. I ended up going to Manhattan School of Music in New York, a little old girl from Tacoma, Lakewood, Washington. And the rest is kind of history.
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you, there is something so specific about being a high schooler and having all of these different competing things.
Mm,
I too experience levels of that. And so I
mm.
really appreciate you sharing that story and taking us on that journey. But when you think about all of the different ways, so once you do a conservatory, once
Mhm.
you start getting involved, tell us a bit about the next steps it took for you to actually
Yeah.
first get on that stage,
Right.
because opera is world renowned
Mhm.
and you are world renowned. I mean,
Mhm.
Grammy award winning. Congratulations. You have
Thank
put the
you.
work in. But
Thank you.
we also know that that's a real journey too, in and of itself. Just tell us a bit about that, because the beginnings, kind of lead you to where you are today,
Absolutely. Well,
right?
like you said earlier, everybody's path and journey is different. But my path, I went to conservatory for 4 years, 7 years, 4 years for my undergraduate. And then I went to Philadelphia at the Curtis Institute of Music for 3 years to get my graduate degree, Master's of Music. And then after that, I did 3 years at the Lyric Opera of Chicago at a young artist program, which is basically an internship, a paid internship where I get to shadow the stars and sing smaller roles on the big stage and really be in collaboration with the professional world. So I like to say that I studied for about 10 years. It's really intense, concentrated, focused study on the voice and performance. And in that, when I was in Chicago, we sang, we auditioned, we sang for different opera houses, different companies, managers. And so I will never forget the day when they said Columbia Artist Management is coming to hear you. And I kind of made up in my mind before that I was going to be with Columbia
Yeah.
because so many of the greats that I admired, Kathleen Battle, Jesse Norman. So many of them were with Columbia artists, and I said, I want to follow in their footsteps. And so I walked into that audition and I just nailed it. And
Wow.
my manager signed me on the spot. And then I started getting jobs in smaller opera houses. So singing bigger roles in smaller houses and smaller roles in bigger houses, just to kind of get used to this feeling. And also, I was doing a lot of international competitions, which for opera singers, I mean, it's such a long journey. The voice develops until you're 50 and 60 years old. So it's a constant evolvement and journey. Your voice is always changing and the practice never stops. So the competitions that I did really put me on the map as well. I didn't always win them, but it was just such a great way to say, hey, I'm here. And a lot of companies have hired me, or they remembered me and they hired me later. And it really just kind of put me on the scene.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, everyone's journey is different, but mine has been slowly kind of ascending. And of course, the pandemic put a halt to everything.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful because I still had my voice, and so I was still working on my voice, and now I sing all over the world. And it's kind of surreal that I'm back home in Seattle making my debut in this role of Delilah.
Yeah. And it's such a well-known story, right? So I
Yes.
think so many people are excited because one of the things I was talking to Josh about, Josh knows, is classic stories that we know, then we're able to follow them more closely. There's, I have just really become a fan of opera in the last year.
Awesome.
And it's really a true example of some of the output or, the end result of my relationship with Seattle Opera. Just being exposed to it, first off, I think is so important, particularly in Black communities, because as you said, there's not a lot of exposure to it. And it started for me with the opera Blue, right? Which is about Black story. It's about Black family. And it was great for me to kind of start there and then to go to some of the classics so that I could have this foundation of, first off, the slow nature of storytelling in opera, which I talked to Josh about. This is, it's so real, right? And I know you've experienced this because you could be in a scene trying to explain just something, one thing, and it's like, 30 minutes.
We're still here.
The notes are carrying on. There's something so special about storytelling through music and through the way that opera is sang. I want to hear your perspective on that, because as someone who's done now many operas worldwide, you probably have a very unique perspective about that kind of slow nature of storytelling in opera.
Absolutely, I do. You've brought up so many amazing points. So I've sung operas from 30 minutes to 5 hours.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like Wagner, Richard Wagner is a composer. His operas tend to be really long, but the music, it really carries you through in a way that if you're there and you're present, it kind of doesn't feel long,
Right.
So for me, it has taken a little bit of getting used to with those long operas, but as a performer, when I'm so focused on every note and every phrase, and in the end, what I'm saying and what I wanted to deliver, it also goes by. But it's kind of like a long race. You really have to pace yourself emotionally and vocally, because it really is kind of like an athletic game, So it's like, I really like to liken it to how I used to play basketball. You had to pace, so that when that fourth quarter comes, you have some more juice to give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
can totally see that. And
Mhm.
not only that, but I mean, the set design, the costumes in
Oh yeah.
opera, all of this plays such a heavy impact in the storytelling. As you have gone on this journey, tell us about some of the top moments for you now that you have
Ooh.
so many amazing characters under your belt. I would love to hear just maybe some of the top moments. Maybe it's the top costume or the top set. Tell
Mm.
us, something
Okay.
that really, sticks out.
Yeah, well, one that really sticks out was my Metropolitan Opera debut in New York, where I sang Queen Nefertiti
Oh.
um, in a production called Akhenaten by Philip Glass. And this actually, PBS played it a few times. It is such a spectacle. We have jugglers. The costumes are so ornate, and I'm playing an African queen, so I got to wear the head crown, and I honestly just felt that I wasn't acting in that moment. I was stepping into who I am and who I come from. Um, and so this is a production and a role that just is so close to me, and it goes down in history, really. And of course, at the Metropolitan Opera, one of the greatest houses in the world, it was, and where I studied in New York, it was really, I couldn't have imagined a better way to enter that scene there. And then another one was this past summer in Verona, Italy. I sang at the Arena di Verona, which is the largest outdoor arena in the world. It seats 22,000, I think. And it's unamplified. So we didn't, as opera singers, we're not amplified. We don't use microphones. So at first I was like, I don't know about this. But the acoustics, it's just made for the voice. Um, so that was a really, really surreal moment, me going to Italy, being the only Black person really there that I noticed besides my family coming in to see, and just stepping onto this stage where so much history has gone down, and also so many particularly African American women have also graced the stage and broke so many boundaries with their voice and their instrument and the storytelling. It was really emotional. It was really, yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, I've really just had the pleasure of being able to sit with Black opera singers in the last year. And my
Wow.
mind has been blown by not only the talent, but the amazing ways that every one of you is utilizing your gift to
Mm,
break barriers as well. And so I want to talk to you a bit about that, because as a young Black woman in this world, I can imagine that you really are setting a tone
mm,
now across the world for Black excellence. And you talked a little bit about some of your influences earlier, but of course there's a legacy of that, right? But oftentimes it is just the one of you that is really there in
mhm.
any given moment. But tell us a bit about how those influences from some of those who have inspired you allow you to now stand in that same legacy and break the barriers you need now for the next person, the next few folks, right? Whoever they may
Mhm.
be coming after you.
Mm. Wow. Well, like you said, there have been so many incredible Black, specifically African American opera singers. I mean, it's a whole lineage, and every time I step on stage, I honor one of them, at least one of them, and I really try to channel Jessie Norman, who was a mentor of mine, and I sang at her funeral. I, and I've interviewed actually a couple of older Black opera singers, and it's so interesting because they couldn't necessarily speak to you how I am today. And so, with that knowledge, I take this gift that I have and this moment in time to not only inspire people, with my voice, but to speak on um, injustices and equity and inclusion, um, and just how beautiful we are as a people. And one day, hopefully, this conversation doesn't actually have to happen. Um, but for now, I just feel like I am standing on so many tall shoulders, and I literally feel them carrying me through because, like you said, as an African American woman in this world, we're faced with with challenges that no one will really ever understand. Um, so I take that and I don't let it hinder me. I let it empower me. And um, again, I think of my ancestors and what they went through. But they kept going, they kept singing, they kept inspiring, and they put their blinders on as much as they could. Some days are hard. But at the end of the day, I have to realize that I'm here and I'm not going anywhere.
That's right.
And this gift that I have has opened up so many minds and hearts. And I always say, I don't actually walk in the room saying I'm a Black woman, and this might be controversial, but I don't walk in the room saying I'm a Black woman, I'm here to prove myself. Like, they might see a Black woman, and I know that I'm a Black woman and I'm proud, but I feel like if I were to walk in and say the Black woman is here, that kind of um, perpetuates otherism already,
Mm.
you know? And if anything, yes, you see that I'm a Black woman and know that I'm beautiful and powerful, but don't attach any stigmas onto that.
Yeah.
So when I am faced with any ignorance or, just trials, I handle it in a way that is like, racism isn't my problem, like, it's the racist issue. And so I do my job. And, if I am faced with something that I have to attend to, then I will in an appropriate way. But 9 times out of 10, my approach to my life as a Black woman is to not apologize
That's right.
ever, and I find that approach for me has really helped with my mental health, emotional health, because I don't take on anybody's problems.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I think many of us uh find ways to navigate it in ways
Yeah,
that
we
really
have
feel
to.
safe for us. And I
Hmm.
hear you saying that and I appreciate you saying that. When you think about family, I got to ask this because you talked about, family coming out to see you in Italy, uh and your mother, Miss
Oh,
Pam
you know
Bridges.
my mom?
Of
Oh
course
my
I do.
goodness.
I run critical conversations with Dr.
Yes,
Mims. And so I'm close with Dr. Mims, and your mother is such a beacon of pride
she is.
about everything that you do. So I got to ask, how it feels for your family to be so proud
Mm.
of everything you do. I mean, your mom was like, look, telling all the Black folks, come to Seattle Opera on the 20th and the
22nd.
22nd.
Yeah.
For months, we've been hearing the message. And I was working with Josh. I said, Josh, look, whatever we got to do to get Black folks in the building, we got to support Janae. So there's this whole effort.
Wow, thank
I
you.
love it. Of people being like, you know what? She's coming home. Seattle Opera debut. We got to show up for her. But your mom has really been leading that charge. And she is,
Mm.
every time that you are doing something, she makes sure that the community is aware of it. I just want to
Wow.
hear how it is for you to
Whew.
know that your family is just so supportive of everything you're doing.
I'm trying not to get emotional here, but I am, because my family doesn't have to be supportive. I have colleagues that have jealous parents, jealous siblings, unsupportive. They think this singing thing is not a real career. And I have just never been faced with that. And I'm so grateful to God and my parents, and especially my mother, because she is literally my number one fan. She knows things about me that I don't even know. She'll go on Google and say, "Did you know this?" And I'm like, "I actually didn't. Thank you for that." She's also like my number one publicist. I have publicists, but she's just so loving and attentive and has so much pride. And for me, that is the gift. My parents have poured so much into each and every one of their children. And for me, as one of them, to see their smiles and how proud they are, that's a gift. And so I'm just so grateful, because Seattle Opera, I think, will never have seen an audience like this. Mostly because of my mom.
Yeah.
She has been working for months on spreading the word, and she has become such an opera fan. Not just when I'm singing, she is like the number one opera mama. And whenever my friends and colleagues come to sing at Seattle Opera, she is there. And it's just really such a blessing, to have parents that are on this journey with me. I try to invite them and include them as much as I can, and they travel all around the world. My siblings do too when they can. They have their own lives, of course, but I'm really blessed. I just, yeah.
For me as a community member and doing what I do here, and having a mother like yours who just everything I'm doing, she's just, oh my God, my baby's here, right? And you say to yourself, I'm just so blessed, right? And I resonate with that message of just like not knowing what it's like to not have the support of your family, because they really I felt that, and I feel it with your mom. So I just and your dad. So I just gotta say,
Thank
kudos
you.
to them.
Yes,
Lastly,
definitely.
I gotta talk to you about coming home. I mean, this is your Seattle Opera debut. This has got to mean something special for you. As we talk about your mom doing her part to fill that audience, tell us a bit about how this performance as Delilah in Sampson and Delilah is now, a great contribution to your entire career. And you coming home is a big deal for all of us. How's it landing with you?
Yes, it's a huge deal for me. I mean, I've sung around the world on various stages and concert halls, but this feels somehow coming home to Seattle Opera. It not somehow, it feels and it is the highlight of my career. I left when I was 18, and people were a bit confused because I didn't really grow up singing classically. So it was just like, this kind of came out of nowhere. So for me, I'm coming home and I'm sharing with the people that poured so much into me and invested in me. I'm sharing with them what I've been up to, for the last almost 20 years. And it's a gift. Like, it's kind of my gift to my community and my village, saying thank you. This is what you did. I mean, obviously I've done the work, but I had the platform and the grounding to tackle this crazy career. Like, I feel so made for this career because of where I come from. So it's really emotional, and I just feel so grateful to come back, and particularly this role. It's very demanding vocally, and characterization wise too, emotionally. But everybody, like you said, is familiar. Most people are familiar with the story of Samson and Delilah. And so it's a great opera to come home to, where people can access it. It's an accessible opera. And the music is just so beautiful. It is so gorgeous. So I just feel like it's the perfect way to come home and say thank you.
Wow.
Thank you to my village and my city.
Well, I was getting a little bit emotional as you were talking, because I just got to tell you, thank you.
Oh.
Thank you for pushing the boundaries and the barriers, showing us what a young girl from Lakewood can do across the world. It is so inspiring, Janae, what you have done and what you're continue to do. And I love knowing that you had great mentors around you, great family, a great village, great love surrounding you. I too really get to experience that village love, that agape love, right? And so grateful to all the folks who helped me be here. But to see you come back and for you to take time to spend, this is why we're going way over, y'all, because I refuse to cut it short. But I love that you were able to take time in your busy schedule. I know you're only here for a few days, and I just appreciate you stopping by here at the Day with Trae to really talk with me. We're two daughters of the community here, really sharing each other's energy. And I'm so appreciative of you. Of course, I got to give you time to look right there. If folks are wanting to follow you and all the great things you're doing all over the place, if they want to come to the show, just let them know right there how they connect with you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you. You can follow me on all of the social channels. I'm most active on Instagram, though. You can just type my name, Janae Bridges, or Janae B. Mezzo, the letter B, Mezzo. And then my website, JanaeBridgesMezzo.com.
Wow. Janae, once again, thank you so much for being with me
Thank
today.
you,
What an
Trae.
honor
So
and a
much love.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Oh, you guys, I'm telling you, I told you it was going to be